Hey everybody, my name's Daryl Obert. Welcome back to Maya Mondays. So I'm fresh back from Siggraph. It was an awesome show. There was amazing stuff being shown all over the trade show, as well as in some of the papers and in the speaker series room that we put together. It was a really good time. Actually got to meet a lot of you guys, which was really super cool. I was shocked at how many people came by and said, hey, well, I've been watching your stuff on the area, or I've been seeing your YouTube channel. So thanks a lot for coming by and letting me know that you've been checking it out. That was really cool. So, for those of you who weren't at the show, we had a series of speakers. Some of them were the designers. Those are really worth watching, those presentations. Those are also on the area. Go check them out. They give you good insight as to what's going on with rendering, animation, dynamics, the people that are behind it, why we've done things that we've done over the last few years, and it really gives you insight as to where we're going in the future. So it was actually it was pretty amazing to get to sit and listen to some of the speakers that we put together for that, as well as some of the guest presentations that we had. So if you didn't make it to the show, go back to the area, dig through there, find all the data, and watch it. I think you'll find it pretty awesome. So we announced 2015 Extension 1 there. I did a new feature video that showed the color management stuff and the performance profiler. Hopefully you guys have all gotten a chance to watch that. If not, I'll put a link to the video that I put together before the show so you can see what it's about. There was about 37 things improved in my Extension 1. Craig Barr did a video that showed a lot of the modeling improvements as well as some of the nuts and bolts and overall kind of cloud collaboration things that we've been working on. One of the things that didn't get shown in those new feature videos was improvements that was made to Xgen, and that's what I'm going to be walking you through right now. So there's a few little things that were done to Xgen that actually make it, make it a good bit better to work with, which is really pretty awesome. So the ability to have a Delta file was newly added. So you have to make sure that you already have an Xgen description in your scene, you've saved it, and you've reopened it. So if we go ahead and create a new description on our tiger, we'll just call it, I gotta select a piece of geometry first. We'll do groupable splines on this guy. We'll go ahead and we'll create that. I'll just increase the length on this guy to something like point, I don't know, put it to 1. We'll increase the density so that it's kind of nice and long. And let's just go ahead and just grab my pose brush. And I'm not trying to get the best groom on my character here. I just want to kind of move the hair around a little bit, sort of give it a little bit of style. Doesn't have to be too great. It's more about the rendering that we're going to be talking about and a few of the other little things in Xgen. So we'll just, we'll do something like that. It looks pretty good. So with that done, let's say this is my starting point for my groom, and I want to be able to do shot-based corrections or something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just mirror this to the left and right, and I'm going to save my scene out. So we'll just hit Control-S on that guy, and we'll open that scene back up. So the opening is really important for what I want to talk about, which is basically using Xgen in a mode that's saving a Delta file. So if we jump back into our Xgen description now and go to the attribute editor for this, if I say export as Delta, any changes I make now, and it's very important that you close the scene out and reopen it, because when you reopen the file and it has Xgen in it, that's sort of your mark in the sand. And from there is where all the deltas, the deviations from that mark in the sand get saved in the form of a delta. So that part of the workflow is actually quite important. So now that I've turned on export XG as Delta, every time I save this out in that same scenes directory, now I'm going to get an Xgen Delta file that captures the tweaks that I've made to that base groom, essentially. So it lets me do unique grooms, shot-specific grooms, saved in that Delta file, and then if I don't like them, I can just delete the Delta file and it'll go back to the original groom. So it's a pretty nice little workflow. So with that done, we're going to go ahead and just jump back into our Xgen. We'll turn off the display of our primitives or of our grooming. We'll jump back to the primitives tab. I'm going to give it a little bit of taper and a little bit of taper start, something like that. And we'll just go ahead and we'll hit preview on this guy. So there's been lots of improvements made to the way that we can do some rendering stuff. Actually, let's go back to the grooming real fast and just make those visible one more time. And we'll use that elevation brush to just pull that stuff out a little bit right there. Elevation brush is really pretty sweet. All right, you guys may recognize this tiger. I used him for some of my a little Xgen webinar I put together a while ago. It was a Turbo Squid model, so thanks to Turbo Squid for that. So with that, let's elevate that a little bit more. Still a little low. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and redo that preview. So we've got our tiger here, and I want to do some shading stuff on this guy. And I don't want to use, the standard. If we graph this here, you can see that it's got that standard Xgen material on there. And I want to actually just use one of the standard Maya materials. So with this old school Xgen standard material, in my webinar, I went ahead and showed you how you could make some custom shading attributes to do root tip colors and add color to it and things like that. And in 2015 Extension 1, we now have the ability to use texture lookup nodes, Xgen-specific texture lookup nodes that really make it much easier to work with, and I'm going to show you that right now. So if we go ahead and select the guy and assign this material to it that's a little bit better for hair, and we wanted to do some texturing on this, well, we now have the ability to do that pretty straightforward. So if we jump into the color node for this guy, and I'll just clear this out. If you click on Mental Ray, to filter it to Mental Ray, and just type XG in here, it'll filter out all the Xgen-specific stuff. So we now have this hair length mapping. We'll look at that one in just a bit. The PTEX lookup, that's pretty straightforward. The root tip color blend. So this lets you do what you could do previously with expressions and custom shading attributes, just with a simple node. So we'll go ahead and we'll shove that one on there, and we'll make the root something really bright, like, I don't know, crazy yellow. And we'll make the tip dark. And we'll go ahead and we'll render this out really quickly. And you will see that we have a slight, root tip color thing happening. Now notice that the root color and the tip color can be texture maps. That's pretty cool. We can go ahead and shove in that and this is going to be kind of blown out because it's the first time I've done the render, but as soon as this renders through, we can drop down that exposure using the new color management and get it to something that looks a little bit more realistic here. So let's just drop that down. But you can see that we're transitioning between that root and tip color. Now, the other thing that's kind of nice about this is obviously there's mapping buttons here. So if I wanted to map to this, I could just map a PTEX lookup and paste into that a PTEX file of the tiger fur. So we'll save this image out. We'll render it one more time. So now we're basically transitioning from a root color that's got a PTEX file on it to the tip color that's just black. So it's going to tone down that tiger fur. You can see that black kind of coming through there, but it gives you a pretty good sense of the control that we have with that. The next thing that we're going to look at is the ability to shove a ramp on here and just have the ramp actually render through properly. And this is pretty nice because then you have a little bit more control than just a simple root and tip color node. So let's go ahead and jump back into that shader ball, this guy right here. Oops, this one. And we'll break this connection. We don't need to use that guy. What we're going to do is we're going to pipe onto this one just a simple ramp. So actually we can do it over here. I don't even need to do it right there. We can do this just as fast by hitting tab and typing ramp and grabbing a ramp texture. So when we shove this ramp texture in here, the viewport's going to get hooked up, right? It's going to start, come on. It's going to start working in the viewport, but the problem is if we render this, it doesn't render correctly. But we now have a new Xgen utility node that lets us fix that. So if I just type XG and grab the hair length mapping node, if we take this guy and we give this information that feeds the V chord on our ramp, we can actually get this hooked up the way we want. So if we hit 3 on this guy or 4 on this guy, you can see I've got V chord specified as when I hit my my selected number 4. You do that by basically going in here and saying editable custom attributes. I always add in that V ramp in the custom attribute because V chord is the most common thing that you're using. So I've shoved V chord in as my number 4 choice. So when I hit my 4 key on this guy, that V chord's always just there because I edited my custom list to have it be one of the objects that show up because, like I said, V ramps are the most common things, and I use them all the time. So if we just grab the out value of this Xgen hair length mapping and shove that into the V chord, and we hit render, now that ramp is going to be tied into our render view, into our shading network. So real simple little tweak, but it just makes working with it so much more elegant and easier than we had before. The other thing that's kind of cool about this is you can actually texture map this stuff. So it gives you almost like a 3D kind of mapping along the length of these ramps. I can start shoving in different texture maps. So I've got this PTEX lookup that we did before. I can take that PTEX lookup and I can say, you know what? It's wherever that black slider is. So wherever that black is down the length of that groomable spline is now going to be my my tiger fur. So this is almost going to give it like a snow effect because we're going to just have, you know, kind of white tips. There's no reason why I couldn't texture map this white slider with a texture, with another PTEX lookup, or add a third slider. So it really lets you do these kind of three-dimensional, you know, sort of texture mapping operations. Like we'll just put that to yellow in the middle. So we'll kind of go to yellow and then we'll go to white, and we'll hit render. And this will look a little strange, but it'll really illustrate the power of these new sort of Xgen lookups that we have. So I use the ramp one all the time now. I'm gonna have to shove that exposure back down. I shouldn't have closed that window. So it'll take just a second to render out. And we'll drop that exposure down one last time there, but you get a sense of, you know, sort of that 3D effect that we're getting down the length of this guy. So if we just jump back into our Xgen thing and add a modifier onto this, and if we just say, I don't know, we'll add a noise modifier to it. I like noise. It's a good one. We'll hit our preview one more time. Kind of punk that guy out a little bit with that noise. Maybe make the magnitude a little bit less. Something like that. So if I'm happy with everything and I hit File Save or Save Scene As, underscore new on this guy, and we jump out to our iDisk here, which I think is where I'm working on this guy, under Xgen Tiger. We jump into our scenes here. You'll see that this is that Delta file that got saved out. So you can see that it's basically keeping it's a very small file compared to the original Xgen collection file, because it's just got that noise file added into it and the little tweaks that we made to the length. So all the changes that we made were included in this Delta file. If I didn't like those, again, I could just blow that Delta file away and it would revert back to using the Xgen, you know, the standard Xgen file. So again, that whole point of the Delta is to give you the ability to make shot-specific tweaks to it and have the overall groom maintain its kind of base position or base starting point. So it's really pretty nice. So that's really pretty much it. There's all those new Xgen nodes that we talked about really quickly at the shading level. And then there's the Delta file and the ability for the soft select to work correctly with the control vertices on guides. So those subtle little changes actually make Xgen work a little bit better for the extension release of Maya 2015. And again, that'll be available for those of you that are on desktop subs or maintenance subscription. I think it's the second week of September. I'm pretty sure it's around September 12th. So it's coming up pretty quickly. So thanks again for tuning in. I'm actually going to be taking off for about 6 weeks. I'm going on a sabbatical and I'm going to be doing a bunch of construction work. So I don't think I'll be doing Maya Mondays posts. I don't even think I'm going to be touching a mouse for a while once I pick the hammer up. So I'll be back first week of October with a new Maya Mondays post. Thanks again for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoy it. Cheers.